Hey guys and girls, how's it going? I hope you guys are having a great week. So I'm back today with another video. This one was actually one that was requested by one of my subscribers that watched my Deus Ex videos and wanted a story video on the events in the book Deus Ex, the Icarus Effect, which is set sort of prior to Human Revolution. And it does have some major characters in there that very well might appear in Mankind Divided. So this video is a response to that request. Now it's very different to my usual story so far videos because usually I have gameplay footage and things going on in the background to help you guys follow the story. Obviously I don't have that at the moment. I've not had time as well to be able to write a script. So this is just me basically giving you a general outline of the story, the main characters involved, what happens in it, and sort of the key points that you need to know going into Mankind Divided. And hopefully it will give you guys some useful information that when you're playing Mankind Divided, you'll get a little bit more out of the experience, because there might be references to events that have happened before that you don't otherwise know about, and this will obviously give you that information. Deus Ex Icarus Effect is set prior to Human Revolution. It actually begins before it, and parts of the book do sort of cross into Human Revolution, particularly in terms of the beginning part, the prologue of the game. So the book revolves around two main characters, which is Anna Kelso, a US Secret Service agent, and Ben Saxon, who is a former British SAS elite trooper, elite soldier. He, at the beginning of the book, actually works for Bell Tower as a mercenary, as a hired mercenary, but it revolves around their stories. It doesn't really mention Adam Jensen too much. There are some references to him, but obviously nothing much on Adam Jensen, though it does cover a lot in terms of the tyrants and the Illuminati and some of the villains that appear in Human Revolution, like Jaron Namir, Lawrence Barrett, Yelena Fedorova. It actually gives you some more information about them, and it expands on their characters a little bit. So if you like those characters and you're interested in them, it's definitely worth the read. So let's get straight into the events of the book. Now, I've made lots of notes on here, guys, pages and pages and pages of notes, so I'm going to try my best to keep this as concise as possible. So at the beginning of the book, we start with Anna Kelso, and we begin in Washington, D.C. And Anna Kelso is on a special VIP protection mission, and her goal is to guard a meeting between Senator Jane Schuyler and Garrett Dansky, who is the CEO of Caden Global, which is a massive human augmentation manufacturing company. They're huge. So this meeting is to sort of talk about US policy towards augmentation regulation, because this is the big push at this time, particularly from the UN. There's going to be this huge vote on whether or not there should be some laws introduced to regulate human augmentations. So it's a very important meeting at this time. But anyway, before the meeting can happen, the team is actually attacked by a group of black-clad, heavily augmented mercenaries that just massacre everyone. They just overpower the entire team and kill everyone there. Now they obviously kill Dansky, but they actually do not kill the Senator Jane Schuyler. They actually let her live, suspiciously enough. Anna is able to shoot one of the assassins and kill them, but she's also shot herself, and she's left on the ground for dead. Before Anna sort of blacks out, she witnesses the mass murder, the coldless, heartless killing of her entire team. She witnesses them all gunned down and killed, and there's particularly one that she witnesses, which is Matt Ryan, who's one of her closest sort of friends, really, and she witnesses his death, and he's very close to her, very important to her, because Anna, when she was younger, when she got her augmentations, because she has special augmentations in her eyes that give her a special sort of vision. She also has a breathing augmentation which allows her to breathe underwater, and when she was younger, she got addicted to stims, which are these injections that you can take, which help speed up your augmentations, or it increases the power of them and the abilities that you can get from it. So she became addicted to this power. She became addicted to these stims, and Matt Ryan basically pulled her back from the brink and effectively saved her life. So witnessing him being killed is obviously, as you can imagine, quite traumatic to Anna Kelso. So she blacks out anyway. At the same time, the book cuts to Ben Saxon, and Ben is in Australia on a special mission for Bell Tower, and he's the team leader of a specialist team called Strike Six, who are basically the elite of the Bell Tower mercenaries, and they're on a mission to take out an enemy faction, an enemy base, and hopefully bring an end to the Australian Civil War, which is happening at this time. Now, Bell Tower intelligence provided basically said that the route that they were taking was safe, that there were no drones, no enemy anti-air gun missiles or anything like that. Unfortunately, it turns out that the intelligence that was given was kind of inaccurate and wrong. Plane that they're on gets shot down by a drone, blown out of the sky, and pretty much all of Ben Saxon's team, bar one guy called Duarte, who Saxon pulls out of the burning wreckage, they all die. Now, Ben tries his best to save Duarte, but he doesn't succeed, and he ends up being killed by the drone that swings around for another shot. And obviously, again, this has a massive effect on Ben, because he's quite close to Duarte, and Duarte has a family, he has a wife and kids, and he obviously feels a certain degree of survivor's guilt for surviving that mission. But basically, Ben passes out, and the both of them later on wake up in hospital. Now, we begin with Anna, who wakes up in hospital, and she's as she sort of comes out of it, she's met by Ron Temple, who is the kind of the leader, her boss basically in the Secret Service, and she learns that the entire event, the attack that happened, is kind of being covered up, and that the chief medical examiner has basically come to the conclusion that the group was attacked by the Red Arrow Triad, who have a vendetta against Senator Schuyler. Now, Anna Kelso does not believe this reason that's given, and she's adamant that that Schuyler actually wasn't the target because she wasn't killed, and she's adamant that it was Dansky actually that was the target, and that it could not have been the Triad, because these group of mercenaries were so professional in the way in which they killed her team that it just couldn't have been them. It was planned, it was methodical, and she does not accept this mission, and she kind of takes it on herself really to find out who did it, to find out who killed particularly Matt Ryan and her team, and she won't let it go. She just will not let it go. Now, at the same time as well, we also cut to Ben Saxon, who was just woken up in hospital as well, and while he's there, he meets Jaron Namir, who basically comes to his hospital bed and kind of recruits Ben Saxon, and he basically convinces Saxon to join the Tyrants. He convinces Saxon that Bell Tower knew that the mission was dangerous, that they kept this information secret from him, and that there's a kind of a conspiracy going on, and that if he joins the Tyrants, not only can he do good in the world, but also he can find out who was responsible for it and possibly get revenge. So Ben Saxon agrees to join the Tyrants as part of that. We then cut back to Anna Kelso, and we see that Anna Kelso is beginning her own investigation into what happened. And to do that, she's gone to the USS Intrepid, which is a rundown ex-military ship used by the American military forces, but it's now being used as a base of operations for kind of black market hackers and drug and info trading groups, basically freelance hackers. And so she goes there. It's very, very sort of shady, very, very dodgy. And, you know, as a Secret Service agent, she really shouldn't be in this location, but she's determined to find out what happened, whatever means it takes. So she goes there and she meets a hacker by the name of Widow, and this hacker searches for information to do with it, and she actually comes up with a name. She comes up with the name of the Tyrants, and she sort of starting to delve into what's going on into the tyrants, and discovering that Dansky and her team are not the first people that have been assassinated by the tyrants, but that this is a pattern that has been happening for quite a long time. These people just disappearing secretively, and not much being covered on it. So yeah, she discovers this, but before she can go into more detail on it, the ship is actually raided by the NYPD, and Anna Kelso, before she can escape, is arrested by the NYPD and taken into custody. We then cut back to Saxon, because again, it's going back and forth all the time. We then cut back to Saxon, and we see that Saxon has been part of the tyrants for a couple of months now, and he's getting to know the different tyrants in the group, and we are actually introduced to some of the key figures in the tyrants. Now, we're obviously introduced to the main leader, Jaron Namir, who we know, Yelena Fedorova, and Lawrence Barrett. And if you guys have watched my Human Revolution video, you will know who these people are. We're also introduced to two new characters, which is Gunther Herman, who is also a new recruit, very much the same as Ben Saxon. And we're introduced to Scott Hardesty, and he's been with the tyrants much longer, and he's actually ex-CIA, and he really doesn't like Ben Saxon at the start. He's kind of got a vendetta against him, and he doesn't trust Saxon, and he doesn't think that he's cold enough to do the job. He doesn't trust him to do the job well. So those are the main groups that we're introduced to. Now, at the beginning of this part in the story, we actually get to see Ben's first mission, which is at the Hotel Novo Rostov. And the major goal in the mission is to kill or assassinate a man by the name of Mikhail Kontarsky. And he's an administrator on the Russian Committee on Human Augmentation. So obviously he plays quite a big role in that. Now, for any of you that have played the game, the Fall, which is, I think it was like a mobile game or something, this is one of the main missions in that game, where you actually go to assassinate and kill him. But anyway, Ben Saxon sort of makes his way, well, all of them basically make their way into the hotel to try to get him. There are certain decoys that happen, but ultimately Ben Saxon does manage to find Kontarsky, and as he finds him, he sees that Kontarsky is having a conversation online with a mysterious character who is revealed to be called Janus, and he's actually part of the Juggernaut organization. Now, the Juggernaut organization are a cyber terrorist group. That's what they're known as, or what the media portrays them as. But they're a massive sort of cyber group that are aware of the Illuminati, and they play a big role in trying to undermine what the Illuminati is doing and reveal the truth of what is going on. So I could very much see that Adam Jensen probably will have some contact with the Juggernaut organization in Mankind Divided. I'd be very surprised if he doesn't. I don't know whether Janus will be there, but I definitely think he will have that. But yeah, we overhear this conversation, and Janus basically turns around to Ben Saxon and sort of interrogates him and kind of asks him, like, do you know who you're working for? Like, you're not working for the good guys here, you're actually working for the bad guys. And he tries to instill some sort of conflict in Ben Saxon and try to convince Ben to sort of reevaluate the group that he's with and look at, should you trust them? Are you doing the right thing? But Ben Saxon ultimately decides that he wants to take in Kontarsky for interrogation because Jaron Namir had told Ben that Kontarsky actually had some intel about what happened on Operation Rainbird and that he might have been involved. So obviously Ben can find out some useful information on what happened there. So Ben wants to take him in and interrogate him, but before he can actually do that, Jaron Namir orders for Kontarsky to be taken out, and Hardesty, who's the crack team sniper on the team, shoots him from a distance, killing Kontarsky before Ben can find out any information. And this leads Ben to sort of question the tyrants and start of it sort of builds a little bit of mistrust that he has for the team. Now, as Ben returns to the ship, him and Gunther Hermann are actually knocked unconscious by Jaren Namir, and that it just cuts away from them. So we're, at this point we're like, oh, what's going on? But anyway, it cuts back to Anna Kelso, and she's at home, and she gets a mysterious call from a guy called D-Bar, who is a young teenage hacker for the Juggernaut organization. And he calls Anna and convinces her to meet with him in the middle of a Humanity Front rally. So she agrees to meet him, and in the midst of the rally he kind of gives her a little bit of information, and he alludes to the tyrants. He obviously says he knows who they are, can give her more information about the tyrants so that she can trace who killed Matt Ryan. And he actually reveals that the tyrants are only the arm of a much bigger organization, the Illuminati, that are the bigger threat. These are the big bad that they should be trying to take down. We then cut back to Ben Saxon, and he wakes up, and it becomes very apparent that Jaren Namir basically throws a gun in between Ben Saxon and Gunther Hermann and effectively says, one of you is a traitor, one of you cannot be trusted, so you have to take out the other guy. So they have a scramble for the gun and a fight involving their augmentations. Anyway, Ben Saxon gets the upper hand. He grabs the gun and points it on Gunther Hermann and is about to pull the trigger, but actually ultimately decides to let Hermann live, and he doesn't kill him. He refuses to shoot him. And Jaren Namir reveals that it was a test, and that actually they both have passed because they didn't kill each other, and that was the test to show their loyalty, if they would be loyal to the group. This rubs Ben Saxon the wrong way, and he's very unhappy about this test that was put on him, and he doesn't like the way that the tyrants do things. We then cut back to Anna Kelso and D-Bar. And D-Bar explains to her about the Icarus Effect and about the Illuminati a little bit. She doesn't really believe him, but D-Bar also kind of talks about that there must be a mole in the Secret Service, because he reveals that by investigating the Mercs, that they have certain intelligence, certain information about the routes that the Secret Service agents were taking, that only an inside source could have provided this information to them. So there must be a mole in the Secret Service, and Anna agrees that that must be the case. So they ultimately, both of them, decide that the only way that they can find out who this mole is to break into the Secret Service headquarters, hack into these servers to find out where this information was sent from, so they can retrace the routes and thereby find who the mole is. We cut back again to Ben Saxon, and we see him living in London now in a luxurious apartment. And as Ben Saxon is there and looking out of the window across London at night time, he sees an advertisement blimp go across the window, and on it says, "Do you know who you work for?" And basically Janice is sending subliminal messages to him to try to constantly remind him and instill doubt in him. Ben Saxon actually finds a phone in his pocket as well. And there are multiple text messages on it as well. And obviously Janice is trying to make contact with him, and Ben's still not sure whether or not to trust this guy. But before he can do anything with that, Yelena Fedorova arrives into the apartment room. And in a very Yelena fashion, she doesn't say anything. She's very quiet. And she just walks up to him, effectively seduces him. And the two end up sleeping together. The two end up having sex. And it cuts away. And that pretty much is what happens there. We then cut back to Washington, D.C., and Anna Kelso is breaking into the Secret Service headquarters. She breaks in, sneaks into the server room, and inserts a flash drive. And D-Bar is in the car park with a laptop, hacking into the system and finding out what's going on. Now, as all this information is coming up on screen, Anna Kelso actually discovers who the mole is, and it is Ron Temple, her boss. And also, one of her friends as well. So she feels incredibly betrayed and angry. She yanks out the flash drive before D-Bar can access any other information, because obviously she's still a Secret Service agent at heart. She still doesn't quite trust the Juggernaut organization because she's been trying to catch them for years. So she doesn't trust D-Bar, but she's got the information that she wants, and she tries to flee to leave the base of operations, but unfortunately she is captured by her ex-co-workers who recognize her and take her into custody, and they take her into the underground prison cells at the base of the Secret Service headquarters, and she was then interrogated by Ron Temple. Now obviously Ron Temple calls into the headquarters, and he's incredibly pissed off, angry at Anna, and also disappointed. He accuses Anna, and he's just like, why did you follow this? Why didn't you just let it go, move on? You've now sort of forced me to have to do what I didn't want to do, basically. Trying to justify himself to Anna, who's obviously accusing him of being a traitor and a spy. And so Ron Temple basically defends himself, and he's like, I didn't want to do it. I had no choice. The tyrants and the Illuminati had basically threatened to kill his ex-wife and his children, and he was doing it to protect them. That was his main reason. So anyway, Ron Temple interrogates her, and then he's sort of saying, well, now I'm going to have to get rid of you. You're a liability. So, he sort of talks about taking her to a remote location where she's going to vanish. She's going to disappear from all knowledge from the world. And so she gets herded into a van, and she's being driven to this sort of far off location. Now as she's being driven, it seems like it's done for Anna. It seems like she's done, but as luck would have it, D-Bar did manage to escape out of the basement in the headquarters, and he actually rescues her and breaks her out by hacking into an automated van that crashes into her vehicle, knocking it on its side, and then obviously D-Bar breaks her out. He's there with her, and he's offers her a lift, and she basically steals his car and drives off, leaving poor D-Bar stranded on the sidewalk because Anna does not trust him yet, and she's on her own mission. She's on her own vendetta. It then moves to Ben Saxon. And Ben Saxon is on the jet at this point, and in it they're all being debriefed by Jaron Namir, who's talking about a new mission that they have, which is one that you guys will know. It is the Sarif Industries mission in Detroit, and they're talking about how Sarif Industries have a new technology called the Typhoon explosive system that is a danger to the Illuminati, and that has to be taken out. They also talk about the scientists and how these scientists have been captured against their will and how they have to liberate them. It's very, very shady, considering we know obviously why they were there and what they were doing. They do also talk about Adam Jensen and reference Adam Jensen. They talk about him. Now Ben Saxon tells them that they should really pay attention to Adam Jensen and not underestimate him because of his background in the CIA. But Jaron Namir basically downplays. He's like, the guy is human. He's got no augmentations. He won't stand a chance when it comes to the tyrants. And so it seems like everybody's going to be going on this mission. However, Jaron Namir gets some news about Ron Temple, that Ron Temple has been compromised, and as a result changes tactics, and he actually sends Hardesty, Gunther, Herman and Ben Saxon on a separate mission, while him and Yelena Fedorova and Lawrence Barrett go to Detroit to invade Sarif Industries. Instead, he sends the three of them on a mission to take down Ron Temple. Now, when they actually get there to invade Ron Temple's house, Ben Saxon is actually left on the helicopter, and Hardesty basically says, I don't want you with me, man. I don't trust you. I don't think you can make the call when you need to. I don't think you have it in you to be a ruthless killer, to take everybody out in that house, because it's not only Ron Temple they're taking out, it's any innocent bystanders that are there as well, potential witnesses to what's going on. So Ben Saxon's basically left on the helicopter, twiddling his thumbs in frustration. We then span to Anna Kelso, who's actually also arrived at the house, having stolen D-Bar's car. She's gone to Ron Temple's house because obviously she knows where he lives, and she's jumped over the fence into the garden. Now she sees two people running out of the house, and then she sees them gunned down in cold blood. And as she creeps into the house, she spots all these dead bodies lying around her. She can hear the floorboards creaking, and she realizes very quickly that the tyrants are there to take out Ron Temple. And obviously she needs to get to him as quick as possible to get intel from him about what's going on, and who the Illuminati are, who's given the orders, who he was working for, because she doesn't know anything at the moment. And also she needs to get out there herself so she doesn't get caught in the crossfire. So as Anna Kelso makes her way in, she goes down into the basement as she's more aware of the house and thinks that's probably the best place that Ron Temple is going to hide. So she creeps down into the basement, and she does actually stumble across Ron Temple, who is cowering in the corner, petrified, and obviously he knows that they've come to kill him. Anna basically is like, I want to know what's going on, and she wants to get him out of the house so she can interrogate him later. But as they're trying to sort of make their way up onto the first floor to escape, an incendiary grenade is thrown in the midst of them. It kills Ron Temple, and Anna Kelso just barely escapes with her life. Having seen that Temple is now dead and her only lead is now gone, she basically makes a run for the fence to escape. And as she's making that run, we actually cut to Ben Saxon on the helicopter, who has spotted her running away, and he has a very clear shot. So he aims with his gun. She stops, so she's running towards him because she can see Ben Saxon there, and she knows that she's probably going to die at this point. Now Ben Saxon has a choice here, and he actually cannot pull that trigger. He decides that he can't kill her. He lowers down his pistol and actually lets Anna Kelso escape. We then cut to Anna Kelso, and she's back at home, having returned home, and she's regrouping and sort of deciding, what do I do now? And she puts the TV on, and on the television she discovers that actually she has been blamed for the murder of Ron Temple and also for the massacre that happened at his house, and that the CCTV footage has been doctored to actually show Anna's face as one of the would-be killers that pulled the trigger. So she is now on the most wanted hit list, and obviously her face is all over the place, so she really has to get out of the city as quickly as possible before she is discovered. So when she gets back as well in her apartment, she notices that there's a package on the table which contains an EMP grenade, a flash drive, and also directions to a mysterious location in Canada. Now she notices behind her that the window is open, and it wasn't open before, and as she's turning around to sort of grab for a weapon, Yelena Fedorova actually materializes, because she was cloaked, obviously. She materializes with a sharp kind of blade, and she goes for Anna Kelso. Now, Anna Kelso struggles, obviously, because Yelena Fedorova is a lot stronger than her because of her augmentations, and she basically grabs the EMP grenade and she throws it down, and it ends up basically completely destroying her own vision because she has augmented eyes, so she goes blind. But at the same time, it takes Yelena Fedorova down because she loses the use of her legs, basically her augmented legs, and also her cloaking system. So Anna Kelso stumbles out of the apartment completely blind into the city, into the street, and makes a run for it, and gradually her vision comes back and she goes towards the train station, I think, to get away. So we cut back to Ben Saxon, where he is on the runway next to the Tyrant jet, and he basically hides and overhears a conversation between Hardesty and Namir. Now Hardesty basically is telling Namir that Saxon is a liability, that they should cut him loose, that they should kill him, that they can't trust him, and that he doesn't have what it takes to get the job done. And the fact that they've had to send Yelena to finish the job is not good, really. So Saxon basically counters that and says, well, no, he does have skills. Because of his experience, he can still be very useful to the tyrants. And Namir finished by saying, well, at the end of the day, Ben Saxon is expendable, as are all of the others. They're all expendable in their main mission, which is to carry out the will of the Illuminati. And at the end of the day, Namir will kill Ben Saxon if he becomes a liability. Now, obviously, Ben overhears this, and this reinforces his earlier feelings that he can't trust the tyrants, that they're not the noble group he thought them to be, and that actually what they're doing is a lot darker and a lot shadier. And it's at this point then, once they've gone back into the helicopter, Saxon decides to actually contact Janice and uses the phone to contact him. And Janice basically gives more information to Ben Saxon about sort of the tyrants, and he talks about something called the killing floor, which is basically this online server, this connection that the Illuminati make with the tyrants, where they give them their targets, their assassination targets, their missions, intel on what they're doing, and obviously prospective candidates to join the tyrants as well. And the Juggernaut Collective are trying desperately to gain access to this killing floor, but it's impossible to hack it because it constantly moves, and the access points move all the time. So it's impossible even to find the location of where this killing floor is. But Ben Saxon has access to the Tyrant Jet, and therefore has unique access to this killing floor. So Janice asks Ben to hack into Jaron Namir's terminal on the plane and to gain access to it. Saxon boards the Tyrant Jet just as it's taking off. We then go to Anna Kelso, who's on a train leaving the city and no doubt heading to Canada, which is where she's been directed to go to. And as she's on the train, she's trying to keep hidden, wearing a hood, trying to keep hunkered down, and the train makes an irregular, unexpected stop, and it appears that the police are actually doing an inspection of the train. So Anna very quickly jumps out of the train. They're in a tunnel. She jumps out of the window, but it turns out it's not the police, it's actually Deba, who has tracked her down and wants to take her to the Juggernaut base of operations, their location. We then pan to Ben Saxon on the plane, and it's nighttime at this point. So Ben Saxon's waited for all of the tyrants to be asleep, and he basically sneaks through the plane and sneaks into the the sort of central HQ where they get all their missions. He hacks into Jaron Namir's terminal, and as he's hacking into it, he gains access to the killing floor, and he actually discovers a number of things. He puts a flash drive in to download a lot of the information he gets, but one of the things he does notice as he's going through it, it basically reveals some information that all prospective candidates of the tyrants have any connections, any lines severed, so any weaknesses basically. So the whole Operation Rainbird was actually a tactic used by the tyrants, who believed that Ben Saxon, while he was part of Strike 6, while he had that camaraderie around him, that was his major weakness, and that the only way for him to become a potential candidate for the tyrants and to become stronger was to have these ties severed. So they basically fed misinformation to Bell Tower, and that ultimately led in his entire team being killed. So obviously Ben is absolutely furious to find this out, that effectively it was Jaron Namir, who he thought had recruited him, was an ally all along, that actually was the enemy. As he's finding this out on the terminal, Jaron Namir actually walks in on him as he's discovering this. And it then suddenly cuts back to Anna Kelso. And Anna Kelso basically has returned to the Juggernaut HQ, which is basically this electromagnetically shielded hangar base. Now, Anna meets a few people there, but she meets a guy called Juan Lebedev, and he is a major investor of a group known as the New Sons of Freedom, which are basically this group of freedom fighters that work with the Juggernaut Collective to undermine the Illuminati and to undermine the tyrants. And he provides sort of financial funding for them and a cover so they can gain intel and recruits obviously into their forces as well. She also meets Janice as well, who is one of the major leaders in the Juggernaut Collective, and he explains to her about the the Icarus Effect and what that is. And he also explains about the Illuminati and the fact that it's the Illuminati that are pulling the strings, and that the tyrants are just working for the Illuminati and carrying out their orders. Now, Anna finds it very difficult to believe this, and in frustration, she walks off to her tent, not believing that the Illuminati can be real, that it's all sort of fake and superstition and conspiracy, and she wants something more concrete if she's obviously going to get her revenge. We then cut back to Ben Saxon in the headquarters, having just been found out by Jaren Namia. And basically, at this point, Ben Saxon has no choice. He's got to escape the plane, but the plane is flying thousands of miles across the ocean, above the ocean, and he's really got nowhere to go. Now, Ben Saxon, in a desperate attempt, has an EMP pistol, which he takes, and he's like, I can't shoot Jaren Namir because he's far too powerful. It wouldn't have any effects on his augmentations. So what he does is he shoots one of the computer terminals, and it sparks and causes fires aboard the plane. He uses that distraction to escape the room and goes into the weapons storage locker, where he actually bumps into Gunther Hermann, and they have a scrap, they have a fight, a tussle again. Again, Saxon comes out on top after breaking several of Hermann's ribs, and he flees, having beaten him. As he's fleeing, he nearly gets his head blown off by Hardesty, who's wielding a wicked Widowmaker shotgun. He shoots the fire extinguisher in the room, causing a cloud of smoke, and uses it as a distraction to escape Hardesty. He then runs into the hangar bay where the VTOL is located, and he plans to use this to escape. However, as he gets there, Lawrence Barrett is there, and he very nearly kills Ben Saxon. Obviously, Barrett is massive, much stronger, and Ben really struggles to get the upper hand. He pummels Ben Saxon, breaking several ribs, nearly crushing his windpipe as he's holding him above. And Ben Saxon makes a desperate grab for the grenade belt on Barrett's waist, sets them off as he kicks off and pushes back, and basically incapacitates Barrett, who's on the ground bleeding out, and looks like he could very well die, but he's bleeding out on the ground, and he escapes from him. He then opens up the hangar bay door, and he basically decides his only choice now is to jump out of the vehicle. So he jumps out of the plane, and he's falling towards the ocean, and just before he gets to the ocean, he uses his Icarus landing system, which shoots landing out about him and allows him to slow down his momentum enough so that he can land into the water. Unfortunately, not without massively damaging his augmented legs that become crushed and unusable. And because he's augmented and he's heavy, he sinks into the ocean very easily, and it seems like this is it for Ben Saxon. He's going to die. But a mysterious sort of machinery engulfs him, so it goes up to him and takes him into storage and sort of into the dark, and that's what it ends there. And then it cuts back to Anna Kelso at the Juggernaut camp. So as Anna is trying to come to terms with what's been told to her, she actually goes into the communications tent and speaks to Janice again, and Janice shows her a vision of what the Illuminati want to do. And this vision shows her a future where augmented people are rioting in the streets, are burning buildings and killing people. And this is, Janice shows her that this is their true goal, this is their true intent. Now, seeing this vision horrifies Anna Kelso, and it's this, as well as many other things, that make her decide that she's going to help, that she's going to fight to try to stop the Illuminati. Anna then hears commotion on the dock, and she walks out to the docks, and they see an automated trawler coming up to the dock. It opens, and Ben Saxon steps out and reveals that he has the flash drive, which contains access to the killing floor. He's introduced to Anna Kelso as well as D-Bar, and then later he speaks to Janice. D-Bar uses the flash drive to hack into the killing floor, and they discover the next target for the Tyrants, which is none other than Bill Taggart, William Taggart, the leader of the Humanity Front. Now, they're very surprised by this because obviously the Humanity Front are anti-augmentation, which is exactly what the Illuminati are, but they surmise that the Tyrants want to kill William Taggart to make him a martyr for the cause and hopefully push for a vote for augmentation regulation and for the UN to vote in their favor to stringently regulate it. They decide that they have to stop this. They can't let this happen. And they're going to get one up on the Tyrants. So they decide to go to Geneva, which is where William Taggart will be, which is where the UN vote will take place. They decide to go to Geneva in Switzerland to stop this happening. As they travel towards the location, they decide to split into two groups. One group will be led by Saxon and Powell, who will lead a special task force to take out the Tyrant jet, to invade the jet and take that out of the picture. And a second group will actually take out a car bomb, because they discover that they're not going to assassinate them in the usual conventional means, that there is actually a bomb in the midst of Geneva which is aiming for Taggart's hotel, and they have to take that van out, that car bomb out, before it can do its damage. So they split into the two groups. Ben Saxon goes to the jet, and they very easily sneak into the jet, but they discover that the jet is empty. It's empty. There's nobody there. As they hack into the terminal, Ben Saxon discovers a third location, which is called the Icarus, and very quickly realizes that this is a trap for them. Unfortunately, he doesn't really realize soon enough. As he's making a run for the exit, the jet goes up in flames. There's a massive explosion which throws him from the plane, but unfortunately takes out Powell and his team completely, and Ben Saxon is the only survivor of that. We then cut to Anna Kelso, and she's in a van along with D-Bar and Crux, I can't say his name, but Crux, who's another Juggernaut initiative, and they're pursuing the car bomb through the city. As they get adjacent to the van, D-Bar recognizes the driver as none other than Gunther Hermann, and Anna Kelso actually recognizes him as one of the killers and the guy that actually shot Matt Ryan dead in cold blood. So Anna obviously sees red. She jumps at the van, grapples onto the side of it, fights with Gunther Hermann, and manages to take a shot at him, which glances his head, causing Gunther to steer the vehicle, and he actually steers it off of the bridge into the Rhone River, and the car bomb explodes as it lands in the river. Thankfully, Anna Kelso is thrown from the van before it goes over the edge, but it appears that Gunther Hermann is dead at this point, and they manage to stop the car bomb. As Anna Kelso climbs up onto the shore, she sees D-Bar there, but he has his gun actually pointed at her head, and it becomes apparent that D-Bar is a turncoat, that he's actually betrayed the Juggernaut Collective and has sided with the Tyrants. When asked why, he explains that the Tyrants are too powerful, the Illuminati are too powerful. After he hacked into the killing floor and saw everything that was there in terms of everything they had access to, D-Bar realized that there's nothing that they could do to stop them, and so decided to try to save his own neck by siding with the Tyrants. He shoots Crux in the chest with 2 bullets, and then holds Anna at gunpoint. Jaron Namir turns up at the location and finishes Crux, and basically takes Anna's cell phone, and Ben Saxon calls Anna just as he takes it to warn Anna that it is a trap, obviously because the jet has exploded. Jaron Namir answers the phone and he basically says that he has Anna held captive and that he will kill Anna unless Ben Saxon agrees to kill and assassinate William Taggart, their main primary target. So he gives Ben Saxon this job in order to save Anna's life. Ben Saxon, obviously being the hero, agrees to do it. Hardesty turns up in a van, giving Ben Saxon a pistol. Ben makes his way through. He takes out a number of guards protecting William Taggart on the steps, and he basically stands next to William Taggart with the gun pointed at his head, ready to take the shot to save Anna Kelso's life. And again, he can't do it. When brought to the brink, he can't do it, and he does not shoot William Taggart, and he decides to warn him to try to save him. Now he basically grabs William Taggart and pulls him down just as Hardesty takes a shot with his sniper rifle, missing William Taggart and instead shooting his aide in the chest, completely killing her on first shot. As he tells William Taggart to stay down, Ben Saxon then decides he's got to find Anna and he's got to take them all out in order to stop the Illuminati and stop the tyrants. And he decides to go for Hardesty first. So he makes a dash for the library, which is where he saw the shot coming from. He gets to the library, manages to sort of dodge some of Hardesty's shots, pulls himself up onto the balcony, and then ends up in a tussle, in a fight with Hardesty. Ultimately, Hardesty is disarmed. He gets rid of the sniper rifle, but Hardesty has this augmentation where he pulls out this arm blade, which he used to try and get Saxon. As Saxon's in a tussle, like trying to kill him, to strangle him, Hardesty basically stabs him in the gut a few times, and ultimately what Ben has to do is he pulls it out and he uses it against him and turns it against Hardesty and causes him to stab himself through the neck, obviously into the throat, and killing Hardesty there. Ben Saxon then takes his phone out and calls Janice, asking him for help to try to find where the Icarus is and to obviously find where Jaron Namir is keeping Anna Kelso so he can rescue her. Janice at this time is very, very nervous, very edgy. He's obviously helped them quite a lot, and he's very worried that the Illuminati will find out his location if he continues to help them. But ultimately, he decides to help them. He actually tells Ben Saxon that the Icarus is a ship off the coast. He gives him the location, and Janice also puts the police onto the ship as well by hacking into their systems to put their patrol units on red alert to try to find this ship. And Ben Saxon basically commandeers a vehicle and drives towards it. We then cut to the Icarus, where Anna Kelso is being held captive in the base of the ship. She's in some kind of prison cell, and Lawrence Barrett basically comes into it, taunting Anna Kelso, talking about how he's going to enjoy torturing her and getting all the intel and information out of her, that she's no longer valuable because Ben Saxon refused to kill William Taggart, and now that basically they can do anything they want with her. Anna Kelso realizes she's got very few options, so what she does in a desperate bid is she takes a commemorative coin that she got from Matt Ryan, which she got for being clean, for becoming clean in terms of her stim addiction, and she uses this as a kind of a knuckle duster and goes to punch Lawrence Barrett and punches him and basically ends up cutting down his eye right down here, which is why he actually has a scar in Human Revolution. He's obviously bleeding down the face, and that causes a distraction. She makes a run for it while Lawrence Barrett is distracted, and unfortunately she runs into Yelena Fedorova that overpowers her, knocks her out, and obviously takes Anna Kelso hostage to the top of the ship, where a VTOL jet is waiting to take off to escape. All three of them: Lawrence Barrett, Yelena Fedorova, Jaron Namir, and obviously Anna Kelso. As Jaron Namir is on the top of the ship, as he goes to open the VTOL, however, the pilot of the VTOL is thrown out, and none other than Ben Saxon steps out out of the VTOL, saying, "You remember me? You didn't forget about me, did you?" And he basically steps out and ready to take on Jaren Namir. And Namir basically goes, "Right, I'm going to handle this guy. It's going to be a one-on-one fight." Unfortunately, Ben Saxon is heavily outgunned, outweighed. Jaren Namir's augmentations are just too strong for him, and Jaren just overpowers him completely. He pummels Ben Saxon into a bloody pulp, probably breaks several more ribs. He uses his wound in his gut as an advantage, punching into that on several occasions during the fight. And what happens is, in the tussle, Ben Saxon falls quite close to where the pilot's body is, and he notices that there's a pistol right next to the body. So he grabs the pistol and shoots Jaren Namir in the torso about 3 or 4 times, causing Jaren to fall back. He then aims the gun at his head and is about to pull the killing trigger when Lawrence Barrett yells out, and he's grabbed Anna Kelso and has her by the neck, and basically said, "If you don't stop, if you don't not kill Jaren, if you don't stop, I will kill Anna Kelso." And he hangs her over the inside of the ship, which at this point is on fire because Anna Kelso basically set a blaze going during her fight with Yelena Fedorova. He hangs her over the edge and says, "I'm going to let go. I'm going to drop her unless you decide not to kill Jaren Namir." Ben Saxon throws the gun away, and Lawrence Barrett, obviously not being trustworthy, lets Anna go anyway, and she falls into the fire, and it looks like she falls into her doom. Ben Saxon obviously shouts out, runs after Anna Kelso, and actually jumps into the base of the ship as well to catch her, and both of them fall into the base of the ship. While this is happening, the 3 tyrants escape in the VTOL away, and we're left with Ben Saxon and Anna Kelso. They actually, using her rebreather ability, they break into kind of a diving hatch, which is in the bottom of the ship, and break out into the water and stay underwater. And basically Anna Kelso uses her rebreather to feed air to Ben Saxon so that he doesn't die, and that's where we end there. We then cut to Paris. Several months later or weeks later, we cut to Paris, where we see 2 Illuminati members, Morgan Everett and Lucius de Bez, meeting in Paris, sat at a cafe talking, and they talk about how while the event obviously did not go fully to plan, that they've been able to use the assassination attempt on William Taggart to further their own objectives, and have successfully used that to try to enforce a United Nations vote on regulation. They talk about some future plans that the Illuminati have got as well, involving a biochip, which you all will know from Human Revolution, and they also talk about some other projects that they've got as well, a cure for AIDS, and also a special project involving the California fault line. Who knows whether we'll see these other plans in Mankind Divided? I suppose that still remains to be seen. But they talk about how they're going to use that to their advantage, and all these other projects that they've got going, and how the tyrants will continue to carry out their goals. We then cut to Costa Rica, and we see Ben Saxon and Anna Kelso together, alive and well. Anna basically says that she wants to stay in Costa Rica because it's a remote location where the tyrants and the Illuminati cannot get them. But Ben Saxon says that's not good enough for him. He wants to take down the tyrants, and he now has a goal to take down the tyrants and take down the Illuminati, and that's his mission, that's his goal, and that's where it finishes. They talk about how Anna then talks about how the Illuminati vision could still come to pass. It could still happen. It's going to be very difficult to stop that, and obviously they might just have to try to ride that wave out, and that's where we cut out, the both of them sort of contemplating that. And that is pretty much the story of the Icarus Effect. Now obviously it was very difficult for me to keep that concise for you guys. It is a 350-page book. If you want to read it, I highly recommend you read it. It is a really good book, and I'm pretty sure that a lot of some of the main groups in there that you need to know will be in Mankind Divided. So the main things I think you should take from the book is obviously Janus, or Janus, however you say his name, I'm pretty sure he's going to be a big player in Mankind Divided. He is one of the main threats to the Illuminati and the tyrants, and I could very well see Adam Jensen working with him quite closely, perhaps later, once Adam Jensen gains his trust. The Juggernaut organization, we know that they are a part of Mankind Divided, and that Adam Jensen is actually working with them while he's also working for Task Force 29. Obviously, the Illuminati are going to be there. Whether or not we'll see Ben Saxon or Anna Kelso remains to be seen. Obviously, they're there. They're alive in the world as far as we know. So it will be interesting if we do get to see them, if they do have cameos, and if we do find out. Now, obviously, at this point in Mankind Divided, Jaron Namir, Lawrence Barrett, and Yelena Fedorova are now dead. So Ben Saxon's goal of taking out and killing Jaron Namir is no longer viable. So maybe he will turn his eyes instead to taking out their bosses, to taking out the Illuminati. I guess that remains to be seen. Anyway, guys and girls, I hope you guys found this video interesting. I hope you found it helpful and informative. Sorry if I waffled a bit in places. I was trying to stay as concise as I could do, but it's such a good book and so many things happen. It's a bit difficult to do that. Anyway, guys and girls, take care. I hope you guys enjoy Mankind Divided if you're getting it on Tuesday. Enjoy it, guys. I hope you have a great time. It promises to be a fantastic game, and the world is incredible. So I'm very excited to play it. All right, guys and girls, well, take care. And as always, happy gaming. Yeah. And Ben is in Australia on a special mission for Bell Tower, and he's the team leader of a specialist team called Strike 6, who are basically the elite of the Bell Tower mercenaries, and they're on a mission to take out an enemy faction, an enemy base, and hopefully bring an end to the Australian Civil War, which is happening at this time. Now, Bell Tower intelligence provided basically said that the route that they were taking was safe, that there were no drones, no enemy anti-airgun missiles or anything like that. Unfortunately, it turns out that the intelligence that was given was kind of inaccurate and wrong. Plane that they're on gets shot down by a drone, blown out of the sky, and pretty much all of Ben Saxon's team, bar one guy called Duarte, who Saxon pulls out of the burning wreckage, they all die. Now, Ben tries his best to save Duarte, but he doesn't succeed, and he ends up being killed by the drone that swings around for another shot. And obviously, again, this has a massive effect on Ben, because he's quite close to Duarte, and Duarte has a family, he has a wife and kids, and he obviously feels a certain degree of survivor's guilt for surviving that mission. But basically, Ben passes out, and the both of them later on wake up in hospital. Now, we begin with Anna, who wakes up in hospital, and she's as she sort of comes out of it, she's met by Ron Temple, who is the kind of the leader, her boss basically in the Secret Service, and she learns that the entire mercenaries that just massacre everyone. They just overpower the entire team and kill everyone there. Now, they obviously kill Dansky, but they actually do not kill the Senator Jane Schuyler. They actually let her live, suspiciously enough. Anna is able to shoot one of the assassins and kill them, but she's also shot herself, and she's left on the ground for dead. Before Anna sort of blacks out, she witnesses the mass murder, the coldless, heartless killing of her entire team. She witnesses them all gunned down and killed, and there's particularly one that she witnesses, which is Matt Ryan, who's one of her closest sort of friends, really, and she witnesses his death, and he's very close to her, very important to her, because Anna, when she was younger, when she got her augmentations, because she has special augmentations in her eyes that give her a special sort of vision. She also has a breathing augmentation, which allows her to breathe underwater, and when she was younger, she got addicted to stims, which are these injections that you can take which help speed up your augmentations, or it increases the power of them and the abilities that you can get from it. So she became addicted to this power. She became addicted to these stims, and Matt Ryan basically pulled her back from the brink and effectively saved her life. So witnessing him being killed is obviously, as you can imagine, quite traumatic to Anna Kelso. So she blacks out anyway. At the same time, the book cuts to Ben Saxon. Hey guys and girls, how's it going? I hope you guys are having a great week. So I'm back today with another video. This one was actually one that was requested by one of my subscribers that watched my Deus Ex videos and wanted a story video on the events in the book Deus Ex, the Icarus Effect, which is set sort of prior to Human Revolution. And it does have some major characters in there that very well might appear in Mankind Divided. So this video is a response to that request. Now, it's very different to my usual story so far videos, because usually I have gameplay footage and things going on in the background to help you guys follow the story. Obviously, I don't have that at the moment. I've not had time as well to be able to write a script. So this is just me basically giving you a general outline of the story, the main characters involved, what happens in it, and sort of the key points that you need to know going into Mankind Divided. And hopefully it will give you guys some useful information that when you're playing Mankind Divided, you'll get a little bit more out of the experience, because there might be references to events that have happened before that you don't otherwise know about, and this will obviously give you that information. Deus Ex Icarus Effect is set prior to Human Revolution. It actually begins before it, and parts of the book do sort of cross into Human Revolution, particularly in terms of the beginning part, the prologue of the game. So the book revolves around two main characters, which is Anna Kelso, a US Secret Service agent, and Ben Saxon, who is a former British SAS elite trooper, elite soldier. The attack that happened is kind of being covered up, and that the chief medical examiner has basically come to the conclusion that the group was attacked by the Red Arrow Triad, who have a vendetta against Senator Schuyler. Now, Anna Kelso does not believe this reason that's given, and she's adamant that that Schuyler actually wasn't the target because she wasn't killed, and she's adamant that it was Dansky actually that was the target, and that it could not have been the Triad, because these group of mercenaries were so professional in the way in which they killed her team that it just couldn't have been them. It was planned, it was methodical, and she does not accept this mission, and she kind of takes it on herself really to find out who did it, to find out who killed particularly Matt Ryan and her team, and she won't let it go. She just will not let it go. Now, at the same time as well, we also cut to Ben Saxon, who was just woken up in hospital as well, and while he's there, he meets Jaron Namir, who basically comes to his hospital bed and kind of recruits Ben Saxon, and he basically convinces Saxon to join the Tyrants. He convinces Saxon that Bell Tower knew that the mission was dangerous, that they kept this information secret from him, and that there's a kind of a conspiracy going on, and that if he joins the Tyrants, not only can he do good in the world, but also he can find out who was responsible for it and possibly get revenge. So Ben Saxon agrees to join the Tyrants. He, at the beginning of the book, actually works for Bell Tower as a mercenary, as a hired mercenary, but it revolves around their stories. It doesn't really mention Adam Jensen too much. There are some references to him, but obviously nothing much on Adam Jensen, though it does cover a lot in terms of the Tyrants and the Illuminati and some of the villains that appear in Human Revolution, like Jaron Namir, Lawrence Barrett, Yelena Fedor are over, it actually gives you some more information about them, and it expands on their characters a little bit. So if you like those characters and you're interested in them, it's definitely worth the read. So let's get straight into the events of the book. Now, I've made lots of notes on here, guys, pages and pages and pages of notes. So I'm going to try my best to keep this as concise as possible. So at the beginning of the book, we start with Anna Kelso, and we begin in Washington, D.C. And Anna Kelso is on a special VIP protection mission, and her goal is to guard a meeting between Senator Jane Schuyler and Garrett Dansky, who is the CEO of Caden Global, which is a massive human augmentation manufacturing company. They're huge. So this meeting is to sort of talk about US policy towards augmentation regulation, because this is the big push at this time, particularly from the UN. There's going to be this huge vote on whether or not there should be some laws introduced to regulate human augmentation. So it's a very important meeting at this time. But anyway, before the meeting can happen, the team is actually attacked by a group of black-clad, heavily augmented